I have a feeling the scared kid is just not gonna be here.
What
Like
do
he's
we
not.
do if he's not? Should we just do it and then if he can meet later, do it again?
I have no idea. I'm not doing this a third time. I mean, I will if we really have to, and we can, but I assume you can't.
Yeah, my schedule for tomorrow is so questionable because like we have to be ready to leave the hotel at 7:30 a.m. and we're not supposed to get back right now until 10 and we always get back later than expected. So, and I'm an hour behind you guys, so that's 11 earliest.
Yeah, I mean, 11's not terrible, but I
Like
don't
it's
know about other
doable, but
people.
it's not like set in stone right now.
So,
Hi everyone.
oh wow, everyone just came. All right.
So everyone talk very slowly. We need 12 minutes.
Yeah, we also skipped a lot, I think.
Yeah.
Wait, you guys are trying to edit it and just add a section to it?
No, we're not
No,
allowed.
I already
Oh, really?
deleted the other one. So now, like, we actually have to.
Alright.
Uh,
I
get
think we need
ready.
to spend more time on the problem statement.
Alright, well, I know, someone said, I think it was Andy or Jay, one of them said that they had, like, the intro, like, they
18 and 18% of children, which is under the age of 18, are obese. Additionally, there was a heart study done called the Bogalusa Heart Study, and it was performed primarily by Dr. Gerald Berenson. And this documentary, or this study was documented in the Weight of the Nation. And the study tracked people from elementary school through to adulthood to observe the obesity rates and how that follows through to adulthood. And the results were that 2/3 of those with a body mass index, or BMI, which means a ratio of height to weight, in the 95th percentile as a child grew up to be obese adults with a BMI of 35 or higher. So this just kind of puts into perspective how big this issue is, of obesity, and especially growing up with it, how it can affect the future lives of our children. And so I think it's a pretty big issue, and that's kind of the importance of why we need to discuss it.
Yeah, also, according to the Jennifer Turley's article about using fast food nutrition facts to make healthier menu selections in 2007, 67% of all Americans were either overweight or obese. Although this data is somewhat outdated, it tells us that Americans are failing to control nutrition. So, yeah.
I also have one fact that's not really talking about obesity, but it relates to obesity, and it's that every year about 735,000 Americans have a heart attack, and of these, 525,000 are a first heart attack, and 210 happen in people who have already had a heart attack. So not only is there obesity as a problem, but also heart disease, which is a really big problem nowadays. And I think that these two issues together are negatively impacting the society of America. So, what complaints have been made?
Um, According to the New York Times, Kelly D. Brunel, director of the Rudd Center for Food Policy and Obesity at Yale, states that consumers spend more than half their food dollars outside of the home. He said that when people eat away from home, they eat more and they eat worse. And part of the reason may be because they don't know what's inside of fast foods, and they're often shocked to find out. Um, so basically, because of the non-labeling of the nutritional facts, people are just assuming that the foods that they're eating are healthier than they really think. So it's a very serious issue.
Yeah.
I have another piece here from Ben Tracy. She's from CBS News, and she wrote an online article. She reported that a standard McDonald's kids meal, and I mentioned it's a kids meal, is about 510 calories. And in this, it has 22 grams of sugar and 23 grams of fat. Um, if you compare it up with Burger King, which is not that great too, their kids meal is about 580 calories, and it has even more sugar, 27 grams, but slightly less fat, which is 21 grams. But um, by comparison, Subway's Turkey Sub Kids meal has only 325 calories. It has more sugar though, but only 2.5 grams of fat. This shows you by choosing a different franchise or brand of fast food, you can see the differences it makes for your kids and just in general your intake of calories. And this may be a factor that can contribute to the obesity issues. And this is one of the complaints that have been made. So on the other hand, the public often has a very different opinion on fast food itself too. In this CBS News, which is the one I just mentioned, one of the respondents commented on this article and said that you shouldn't blame the fast food industry, you should blame the parents instead. They teach their kids bad eating habits. However, on the other hand, another person named William Lewis says that the fast food industry doesn't care about the children. Instead, all they care about is the cash that goes into their cash registry. This shows how even the public has a two-sided opinion on this issue. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's a really good point. Just kind of putting. I don't think the blame is necessarily something that should be put on the fast food industry. Does someone have me on speaker? I can hear it like echoing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I feel like you made a really good point that it's more about like informing the consumer instead of just putting the blame on the fast food industry.
I actually have one more complaint that was made. It was by Dr. John Mandrola, who's a cardiac electrophysiologist. I don't even know. And he says one of the great toxins of modern world was simple sugars. And so I think that putting nutrition facts on menus, even though it's showing the ingredients, it may not show that like how bad they are for you. Like simple sugars are like they're considered toxins and people don't even know that. So I think Dr. John Mandrola, he was complaining about that. So moving on.
I actually have one more thing that I think kind of ties into this part of the discussion. There was a study done in 2007 by the Kaiser Family Foundation, and that children ages 2 to 7 see about 6,000 food-related facts every year. So I think that's also kind of influencing the decisions that families are making. If they're constantly being surrounded and getting these subliminal messages about what to eat, that could potentially have an effect on what they end up going and eating and getting for dinner.
Yeah. So what harm has occurred from all these problems?
So I have an article here which is from the American Academy of Pediatrics, and basically what they did is a research, and they used a sample of 6,212 children and adolescents from the year 4 to 19 years old in the United States, and among all these researchers, they basically found that there's an association between fast food consumption and their dietary quality, and they often use words like seems or plausibly could to avoid mentioning a direct causal effect on relating fast food and obesity or just in general a bad diet. So I guess this is kind of the point where you can notice that we don't really. I personally can't find a solid research that directly links these two factors together. And then there was this another study performed by Donna Hedge Ryan and published in the Journal of the American Dietetic Association under the title of Fast Food Consumption Among U.S. Adults and Children, Dietary and Nutrient Intake Profile. What happened is that their results indicated that individuals who consumed fast food had higher intake of energy, fat, and saturated fat, sodium, carbonated soft drink, and lower intake of vitamin A, C, milk, fruits, and vegetable than those who did not report eating fast food. This research, although as the title suggests, did not aim to, like the other previous research, did not aim to link a causal effect between fast food and obesity. But it also just provide a general heavy suggestion that the consumer should be made aware of consuming high-fat fast food.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's like a really big part of this issue is just like informing the average consumer because they don't understand how bad what they're putting into their body is for them. So I think that's a really good point to make. They don't understand that they're not getting vitamins and that they're eating too much fat.
Yeah, I think there's two types of people in this situation. There's people that just don't care and they eat things anyway, and I think there's people that eat stuff without being informed. And
So I think it's quite important because personally, when I look at the labels on food that says calories or the nutrients, for example, sodium, there's actually, to know how much you should take is not so much the value in milligrams or whatsoever, but it's actually on the right-hand side, which you can see is the daily intake, like the daily amount that you need, and that suggests the percentage that you need to take. So, like you said, many people don't actually care. They don't care if the label is there. Yeah. So I think educating them might be a difficult choice too, because even if the label was there, they might not take it.
Well, going back to what Andy said about the relations between the fast foods and obesity, I have a research. In volume 22 of Obesity Surgery, the behavioral effects on obesity were tested among 270 patients, and in their results, they concluded that fast food consumptions exerted the largest influence on the high level of obesity. So this means that the fast food is very decisive factor that can make people obese. Also, being obese can be very harmful. Center for Disease Control and Prevention claims that obesity-related conditions include heart diseases, stroke, type 2 diabetes, and certain types of cancers, and some of leading causes of preventable death. Because studies show that constant consumption of fast food can actually harm the health of people, there should be a mandatory requirement for fast food to place nutritional facts in their menus. Yeah.
I agree with what Jahan just said. I have another study also that is from the National Bureau of Economic Research, and it actually shows that the obesity rate for people that eat food with labels is 14%, while the obesity rate for people that normally eat food without labels is 17%. So while that seems like a small gap, it's actually, that gap of 3% represents 9 million people in just the United States. So if there's 9 million people that are affected by not having labels on their food, and as a result they're obese, that is a big deal. And I think that fast food definitely should be responsible and put those labels on all of their items.
Yeah.
I think I have a point to add on. Sorry. So
Go ahead.
I think I have a point to add on that. So I was personally on a diet, and I was reading this article, and it said that people who weigh themselves on a daily basis and tracking that, and just in general, they were tracking their weight, had a 30% higher chance on losing weight or just keeping that weight in check. So that goes on to show about when you're either educated or informed or just simply conscious about the choices or things that you're putting into your body, you can gain control, and it gives you a better chance to control what you're doing and what you're doing to your body, basically. Yeah.
So going back to what Jaehoon was saying about just kind of like the health detriments to consuming these foods, I just kind of wanted to put an economic spin on it. So I have a statistic from Harvard by Dr. Kolditz, and he made an estimation in 2006 that showed obesity was responsible for close to 10% of all medical costs, which in putting it into the dollar amount for 2012 was nearly $86 billion a year. So that just kind of shows the harm from an economic standpoint, just how much this is costing the American people every year. So I think $86 billion, that's pretty significant. It just kind of shows how much this is costing from just like surgery, from like those heart defects, just showing how much that costs just from a medical standpoint and an economic standpoint.
Oh
Yeah.
from the same the same study of the site of the facts I just cited from the National Bureau of Economic Research. They also said that over a 20-year period, they estimate that labels on foods has saved the United States $166 billion. So in monetary benefit of decrease in body weight. So I'm sure that has a bunch of different factors that go into that, but most of it, I'm sure, is medical costs, a lot of things that the government pays for because people are unhealthy.
Yeah, I think adding the nutritional facts just prevents a lot of unnecessary harm that's occurring.
That sounds like a lot of money. Is there any figure to compare between let's say America spends, like you just said, a few $billions on this? About other countries, do you guys have any idea on that?
I don't currently. I could look it up.
Okay.
Yeah, I only have numbers for America.
We should move on really quick, and if I find something important, I'll let you guys know.
Okay.
Okay. So I think the big question is what might be done to solve this problem.
I got something for that. Right now, according to the New York Times, the same article, New York has a law in place where fast food chain restaurants that have more than 20 restaurants, they're legally they legally have to put the nutritional labels on the restaurants, but that's only in the state of New York as of right now that I am certain of. So maybe the federal government can aggressively push for this law, so that fast food restaurants in all states have to do the same. So basically, yeah, I mean, if New York, if the state of New York, they have the law, and I mean, I'm pretty sure those restaurants like McDonald's, Wendy's, and Subways, what have you, they have the labels set in their restaurants. And maybe I didn't even think of this until now, but I mean, I'm pretty sure this, because of the same article, they did mention that restaurants they're reluctant to actually agree with any laws, and that the federal government did try to attempt this in 2010, I believe, and it keeps on getting pushed back because they're fighting it. But I mean, if maybe they're thinking that if people really do realize the amount of calories in these meals, that it's gonna really hurt business. But at the same time, I think we have the right to know like what we're consuming.
So what kind of nutritional information is posted? Is it just calories?
I believe it's like the standard that we see when we buy a bag of grocery chips. I'm thinking calories,
And
fats,
ingredients.
sugars,
Oh,
yeah,
really?
things of that
Primary
nature. Well, I'm
ingredients,
not sure about
probably.
the ingredients. I'm not sure about the ingredients, but
Yeah,
So,
so that's a lot of information. That's like I think vital.
so in 2010, the government pushed for the entire country to have it, and it didn't work.
Let's see. It says
Yeah, I saw that too. So basically the FDA wanted the whole country to, and you can back me up if you find like actual statistics, but they
yeah, I
wanted
will.
to have everyone with any chain that had more than 20 locations post the calories within their menu, but there was a lot of pushback, as Hill said, from the restaurant industry, so it just keeps getting pushed back. Like it's still not in place as of right now.
So
I,
yeah, absolutely. So it was it's 2000 and this was published in 2010. So and then in the article it says a year from now. So I guess they try to push it in 2011, and so far it's getting pushed back and pushed back.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that too. Which I think is kind of showing also how much power the food industry has.
Yeah.
Also, in 2006, McDonald's actually started posting their nutritional facts McDonald's started posting their nutrition facts on their meals. They posted what they call like the Big Four, which is carbohydrates, fat, protein, and protein, carbohydrates, fat, and energy on their meals, and they did that right before the Olympic Games in Turin, Italy. And I think that so it shows that it can get done, although especially in the United States where they hold so much power, it's a little bit, and they have, I'm sure, many more restaurants. It's a little bit harder to make change happen as fast.
yeah, I wonder if like when they did that, it changed the sales like on certain like things on the menu versus other things. You know what I mean? So,
Oh, and
I think
I forgot to mention. I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
I just want to emphasize that because I did mention that the federal government did try previously, but I want to emphasize that they need to be more aggressive with their approach. So I just want to emphasize that. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I agree. I forget what I was gonna say, but that's okay. Let's move on.
So
I feel like the government are not trying hard enough because they don't
Yeah,
want to
absolutely.
deal with the issue. They just keep prolonging it, and they don't realize that when they prolong it, it just makes it worse and worse for society as a whole. I think that's what the main issue is.
And I think they also probably realize how much business they give to the country. So like
Exactly. Yeah.
if
But
they do anything to make them angry, they probably realize that it could cause conflict internally.
but
So
I
it's
kind
not an excuse.
of sorry. So I kind of think, okay, can you guys picture this scenario with me together? So this is how I picture myself when I want to go to McDonald's to buy a burger, let's say. And if we just let them put the nutrient labels on it and showing how much calories there is. So if today I've decided that I want to eat McDonald's and I went inside the restaurant and I see there's maybe 100 there's a 100-calorie difference between the double quarter pounder and just the quarter pounder, so I still eat McDonald's. It's just I'm still eating McDonald's. It's just that I am being more conscious about my choice, that I don't want to put so much energy in me. I'm still buying McDonald's, but I'm just saying, without that, without the label, I can't know how much of a difference am I making to my body. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's actually what I had forgotten earlier that I was
Yeah.
going to say, that it's like good to put it in perspective that the business is shifting within like the fast food industry, but it's not necessarily like completely being eliminated, so like people can order
Exactly.
just like something healthier. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think we're trying to take the business away from them, but just, people who go to
Saying
McDonald's,
the truth.
yeah, we just want to know the truth and what we're doing to our body. I think that's the perspective, which is
Yeah.
quite important.
I mean,
I
I think
think it is good to keep that in mind, though, that business could potentially decrease for them.
Yeah, that's true.
I think it probably will, but I don't think it would be enough for it not to be enforced. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it wouldn't affect them as much as I think they're just trying to eliminate like any possible decrease of sales that they have. But I think that they could manage to lose a little sales and trade
Yeah,
off. You
which
know what
is
I mean?
funny because if you do a quick Google on like fast food industry revenue, just I saw like $15 billion. You know, that's a lot of money. Which is if you plummet your sales a little bit, it's okay. You know.
Yeah, for the greater good of society.
Yeah.
And I just want to look at another point of view. I think that it's the government's like responsibility to protect their citizens, and with such crazy like heart disease rates and it like killing so many people annually, I think that it's the government's responsibility to do something about this. I don't think it's their right, but I think it's their responsibility. And I think with public opinion, they should be able to do this.
Mhm.
What like if government pushes the law on the nutrition facts, I think that probably the industry will hire lobbyists and lobby lobby for to not get that law passed. That's why it's going back. So I thought like fast food chain industry and government can compromise. So
That's the best way.
um, compromise on a law to make fast food chains place a nutrition facts in their stores, not on the like what you see on the cashier, like screen on the cashier. So I thought there should be a like a booklet or some similar measure that includes all the nutrition facts and the servings that relate to the average man and woman's diet. So customers won't have to ask for nutrition facts to the employees. They just have to go on their own to find about what they want to see and care about their health. Yeah.
So just
I
make it
thought,
more accessible.
yeah.
Well, I know that most restaurants have their nutrition facts posted online, but that doesn't really seem to be doing much because people aren't actively seeking out that information. So, just to kind
Yeah,
of,
so that's what I thought. Why I thought that they should put like book or something on all their menus that include like nutrition facts, so customers can like go to their store, like check it out if they want to see while they're in line or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, like just something to check out when they're like bored online.
Yeah, like
I mean, it brings more good than harm, probably.
that's what I thought for the solution.
Is there any other solutions?
I have one. So I think we should require fast food chains to have real healthy alternatives in their menu, and just simply continue their efforts in developing and improving on their products so as to provide more nutritional value in their foods. I'm pointing this out because we have seen McDonald's salad and Burger King's low-fat French fries, which are not really, how do I put this? Like, if you check out McDonald's salad, it's actually 580 calories, which is really not, which is sometimes more than a burger, So I don't think these are healthy. These are not healthy alternatives. They are just they look healthy, but they're not healthy. So I think they should place options in their menu where if today I wanted to order something that is not so like just a quarter pounder, which is something that is fried, but I can make a conscious choice to add some nutritional value to my meal by ordering something that is really nutritional valuable to me, if that makes sense. Yeah. And not just these like fake healthy diet salad things.
that are actually like worse for you than the burger. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually saw, just to kind of go off of that, there was a study done at Johns Hopkins, and it said that whenever the menus at some of the restaurants were required to put the calorie content, that whenever they came up with newer menu items, that those menu items had about 60 fewer calories than the old menu items before they were required to put the calorie content. So I think it would potentially force a lot of restaurants to like be more conscious of what they're feeding us and just give us those healthier alternatives.
Yeah.
So I think this topic has been like debated for a long time already, and I remember like 5 years ago there was no salad on McDonald's menu, so and people have pushed them to provide a salad and so on, but that's the problem, the salad that they provided is not actually a healthy alternative. It's just a bad meal in disguise. So
Yeah.
and they often like McDonald's or like for example, Burger King's low-fat French fries. They phased it out, I think 2 or 3 years ago. I'm not sure, but that what's that called? The excuse for that is that sales were too weak to continue to offer this item in the menu. So we can't go back and forth. I don't think we can let them go back and forth. First is this disguising a bad item, a bad salad for you. Then another is like pulling off a low-fat French fry by saying that sales were too weak. I just think that there needs to be some sacrifice that needs to be made. When you are a profiting business, I think the government needs to place in some like people need to ask this industry to make some sacrifices for what it's doing.
Yeah, I think the government could do something about it. They just
Yeah.
don't. Is there any other solutions?
Yeah,
I was
for me-
thinking maybe like a secondary label.
Yeah. I had an idea about that. I think that if so we already have the regular nutrition labels. For example, you see on the back of a chip bag you buy at the grocery store. It has all the specific information that if you're looking and you're interested, you can read about, and there's a lot of stuff you have to look up. I think there should be a secondary one that that's really easy. You can see what it means in a quick glance. So, for example, on a salad that they're serving, maybe this says this is a well-rounded meal, and you can it's a well-rounded meal. This is a good alternative for you. But if you're ordering a Big Mac, they can say this is like a once a week type of thing, or once every 3 days to stay healthy. It'll be a little bit easier, I think, for people to use these labels more efficiently if they're a lot easier to understand for the average person.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. I saw that there was another study done at Johns Hopkins, and they saw that only 30% of consumers notice when you have like the calorie content on there, so maybe making it more visually appealing. And we don't even know if that 30% from the study are the people that need to be paying attention to it. So I think making it something that's more visually appealing and not necessarily a number that the consumer might not understand, just say this is healthy. I think that's a really, really good idea personally. I'm not sure what everyone else thinks.
Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah, I mean,
I agree.
simplifying facts on an item would help a lot. It would be more accessible to inform people, and it would probably increase the amount of people that it would that reach to them. I mean, I think, what would you think the advantages and disadvantages of that solution would be? Because I think one of the disadvantages would be that I think maybe people would still ignore it. So I don't know if it's a simplified label that it would be. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
for me it would be if I'm a type of person who goes and eats at McDonald's every day, and every time I order a Big Mac, I see this is a once a week type of thing. You shouldn't eat this all the time, like right on the front of it. It's like it's telling me, oh, well, that's not that kind of. If I see that for I eat there 3 straight weeks, every single day I see this telling me you should probably not eat this. It goes back to Andy's point about if you're aware of what you're doing, you're less likely to have an effect on your weight. You're more likely to lose weight if you're trying to and you're monitoring your weight. So I feel like it transfers over to this, and you can say that if every day you're seeing something telling you not to do this, don't eat this every day, even if, of course, there are going to be some people who don't listen to it, but I feel like the majority will be affected by it and will make different choices.
So I think that how we discuss the label is quite important. Because if you just label something as whether this is good for you, as in whether this is a wholesome meal or so, that's not very good. But instead, the other method, which is just have this maybe once per week.
Andy?
Uh-oh.
I think he froze.
Oh no.
All right. Well, I just wanted to ask one question, Garrett, about that solution.
Yeah.
So when you make that secondary label, like, who would be responsible for making the advice that would be put on them? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think nutritional experts for sure. However that form comes in. Personally, I think there should be government oversight as well. So the government should form a committee of multiple nutritional experts, and from different backgrounds, from different countries, and then so they're able to come together and make a solution that benefits everyone. I feel like experts are definitely worth listening to, and if we leave it to the industry, it'll definitely be biased, and if we leave it to solely government, maybe they don't know exactly what the best thing to do is, so experts should be the best option.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea. I mean, if they made like a group that had like a group of dietitians and they had like a general consensus, because I know a lot of dietitians have a lot of different views, but if they came up with one thing to agree on for the label for a specific type of food, that would be something that I think people who are eating the food would listen to, because it's a very reliable source.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that also could prevent, like you said, Garrett, the fast food industry from like kind of like going around regulation. So like I know that, for example, with like milk, they said that, oh, fat's bad for you. So they created skim milk, took the fat out of the milk, and then put in a ton of sugar. So like I think that prevents stuff like that from happening, where you're actually making a product that's worse for you, even, and advertising it as healthy. So if you have, like, I agree, dietitians, I think that would be a really good idea, because they know exactly what people should be eating.
Yeah. So when I think we could all agree that I think Garrett's idea is a really good idea, having like a secondary label with advice about about the product. But do you guys know like how we would put this solution into effect and make it like a realistic option?
For me, I think the main thing we'll have to make it possible is time and money. I think, money is definitely required. We need to be able to reach a large audience, which often it comes in the form of advertisements, which you have to put on the radio, put on TV. But also there are options where we don't have to spend that much money. For example, we can start, like make a petition, we can go on social media. All these things don't cost that much money, we just have to get the word out there. Because there's kind of two options. There's the one is trying to petition the industry to change, and the other is to petition the government to make laws for the industry to change.
Yeah.
For me, I feel like trying to petition the industry will be way too difficult. I don't think they're going to change, but for the government, we definitely have to get a bunch of people to write to their congressmen. So we definitely have to get a large following.
Yeah, I think public opinion is probably the most important thing that would actually cause change in a situation like this.
I also think that the nutritionists should be working very hard to form a standard on making labels, because like industries will not try to conform to the law that could like eventually make their revenues go down. So the government, I think, should push really strong about this, and I think there should be a overboard that of nutritionists to make the label that Garrett's idea was about.
Yeah.
Guys, is anybody else experiencing lag?
Not really.
No.
A little, but I can still hear everyone.
Not really.
I think one important thing is public opinion, and I think that this is a type of issue that's very bandwagon. So if a couple people start trying to put an initiative on this, then a lot of people will join in. And I think that time is kind of a resource here, and I don't think that we should wait till it's too late to do something about it, because I feel like that tends to happen a lot.
I'm thinking of one point where, remember, I don't know if you guys remember, last time we mentioned how this fast food thing is sort of like cigarettes, and for a long time people thought cigarettes were okay, and then slowly people realized that cigarettes actually cause you to get all kinds of cancer, especially lung cancer, and then we learned to tax cigarettes. So I think some form of sacrifices have to be made. Maybe, we have to find a way to. It's funny to say that we want to tax fast food, because part of why people love fast food is, that it's so cheap. It's so cheap and it's tasty and it's so fast. But yeah, when you say time and money, I think some of the money will have to come from the industry itself to support this kind of direction. And I feel like the government should make, or just the public opinion itself should make them realize that it's an okay direction to go on. People still love fast food for what they are, but there should just be better options, that they can provide us with.
Yeah. I think that's one of the disadvantages to the solution, that it would take a lot to get the industries to be on board with it. And that's what makes it kind of an unrealistic decision, but I think public opinion is the only thing that could fight against that. Because, I mean, if people boycott, you'd have to take a lot of public opinion and a lot of public support, but if you boycotted the industries, then they would be forced to do something about that. And also, going back to cigarettes, I think when people look at views about drugs and laws on drugs and stuff like that, they see it as a very serious issue, because it's a direct bad effect on people's health. But when people think of obesity and stuff, they think, oh, that's like a personal choice, that's their own person's fault. But I think if we I feel like it's almost in the same way as a drug. It has an indirect effect, but it's still bad for people generally. Like, fast food may not be a drug, but it's still, it doesn't have the I'm trying to think, people don't view it the same way, but it kind of is the same thing, the same situation.
What you're saying is quite important, because if you take a look at the word obesity and all these heart diseases, you know that people, if you really study them, people will refer them to chronic diseases. So if you say cigarettes give you cancer and all those, obesity is a kind of chronic disease. So in turn, it should be taken, people should be more aware and, just give it the amount of awareness that it deserves, instead of just saying that, oh, it's this person's personal choice that led him to this disease,
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, I agree. And going back to the economic thing, some of those costs, the billions of dollars, those are direct costs, so those are just like going to the person that's making those life choices. But a lot of it's also indirect. So like insurance companies are going to charge more whenever they know this is going to be an increasing issue. So it's a cost to everyone, not just the person making the choice.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of limitations on the issue, especially people thinking that eating healthy is a personal choice rather than something that the government can do. So I think that's a huge limitation on putting it into effect.
So going back to how we might put this into to work is basically I know the government has to respond to a petition if the number of signatures surpasses a certain amount, and if it surpasses another higher amount, then the government has to form an internal debate about it. So
Yeah.
basically, I think the first step is to raise public awareness and just gather signatures if we want to make this thing happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Which I think the resources for that would just be time and I guess a little bit of money. It would be public opinion would take a lot of time. That's the main resource that's required for this, probably.
I think because it's quite difficult to find someone who'd say no to like labeling fast food. You go on the street and you ask, do you support labeling fast food? In general, people would say yes. I think there's a higher chance of people saying yes than no for that stuff.
Yeah, I feel like not really people would say no. They might not have an opinion, but like no one's gonna say no.
Yeah.
Because it's not hurting anything.
Exactly.
To support why I think time is important is I mentioned earlier that the obesity rates, they're slowing down. So it means that over time people are starting to realize more and more. And I know it's not like enough to make a positive impact, but it just proves that time is really like the main resource here because people are starting to realize, and I guess that's really just what it comes down to. And like eventually I think this could be put into act. That's really what I think. Does anyone have any other things to say on, I guess, limitations and disadvantages and advantages on how to put maybe a secondary label into effect? I think we covered most of the stuff.
Just to mention, it will be, I believe we already mentioned this a little bit, but I think it'll be, I think already there's been some push towards making fast food healthier as well as putting proper labels on the food. I believe that soon, like Andy said, it'll become more like cigarettes where people will start becoming more aware of what's happening, and eventually there will be societal pushback against these industries. I believe that this secondary label can be a good start so that it allows people to become increasingly aware.
Yeah, I think it's just all a bandwagon opinion. That's how most of these issues, I feel like, end up being, where just people wait until it's too late and then they start realizing. So hopefully that isn't the case, but that's sometimes how it is. So does anyone have any other things to input on this?
Yeah, I just have one last point. So, I'm actually from Taiwan. So if you go to Taiwan and you visit a McDonald's, there, all the labels are already there. It's on the pamphlet, it's on the box, it's on everything.
Is that a law there?
I'm sure there's some kind of law there. I didn't check it out, but I know that it's there.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes on to show how, like, it goes on to show basically why, it's kind of obvious why America has been a bit slow on this compared to other Asian, or just Taiwan, for example. So I think the lobbyist has a lot to play in this. So yeah, that might be one of the limitations that we might face if we try to do this.
Yeah.
What I was thinking about for a solution was like using social media. It might be something that people thought of once. Maybe they went into let's say a fast food restaurant and they're like, you know what? There's no nutrition facts on any of these labels, and they just thought about it, but it's just it wasn't that important to them for them to do any research, or just they're just thinking, oh, that's just the way it is. But maybe if we spread like an awareness, like, don't you want to know, like, don't you think this is important, or something like that, where people are constantly, it's in their face, like, you know what, I did think of that one time, like the McDonald's. How come every time I go to McDonald's, I don't know what's in the food? So doing some kind of campaign like that, which is, it wouldn't be very costly at all. I think putting more awareness to people, and they're gonna be like, you know what, I do want to know. I am curious what's in these things. I want to know how many calories I'm putting into my body. I think that would be a good way to raise awareness, to get people curious into actually saying, you know what, I am curious. I do want to know. So
Yeah.
I just thought that would be something good.
And I just think that McDonald's has to take care of their customers too, because there's a very funny thing here when I first came, which is when I went to the McDonald's, and there's always this question: do you want to supersize your meal? This thing doesn't actually exist in Asia. Like, do you want to supersize your meal? I think McDonald's and just fast food in the fast food industry in America needs to take portion control for their customers in their hands too, not just trying to upsell just for, like, I don't know, it's like 20 cents to supersize your drink, but the amount of calories that you put into your body, it's not even worth that 20 cents, if you get what I mean. So yeah, I think McDonald's or just the fast food industry needs to take care of their portion control instead of just trying to upsell all the time. I think that's one of the part that is quite important for them to consider.
Yeah. I think that's another issue at hand. So I'm going to wrap this up, but is there anything else anyone wants to add?
Nope.
I think we covered this issue well, and I think we could agree that a secondary label would probably be a realistic choice. It would have its advantages and disadvantages, and I'm sure, as we said, the resources we need would be time and money and public opinion and stuff like that. And yeah, so I think that's really what it comes down to. And yeah, so is there anything else anyone wants to say?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to wrap it up, and thanks everyone for the discussion.
Mhm.